quickly show you one example of how to take a a topic for initial research, and to narrow it down so that it's manageable, it's doable in a smaller paper, like a 10-page paper. It's focused. You're not overwhelmed with the source work on it, on that specific. There's still room for someone to have something original to say on that focused topic. Now, laughter is way too broad right now. It's huge. You know, if you were to keyword this and search it in EBSCO or the library databases, you would get so much. So, you know, it's nice if you're just learning about it, which is what we are beginning to do with an initial investigation, to start broad, right? But then as soon as you can, narrow it, and maybe even before you begin. For example, I'm really interested in the connection between laughter and apology. Do you notice how many times we feel like when we apologize, sometimes we tend to laugh, and particularly when we're apologizing to a stranger, and it's not so grievous a fault, but it's still something we need to apologize over. We tend to try to get humor involved here. So what are we doing with these two things? This is embarrassing, but this is sort of persuasive. If we can laugh with someone, we get them to kind of be on our side, more or less. So I am interested in this. This is much more specific than just laughter in general. But how about let's get a little bit more specific? What about something like laughter, apology, and the Hollywood celebrity. Now, one thing I could let me just make a point here. If I'm not finding a lot on this, but I am finding a lot on, say, politicians, then I would change my narrow topic to laughter, apology, and the American politician. Okay. So at this point, when you're initially going into to learn about something, you need to be able to switch paths. If you start finding a lot of information about a certain aspect or a different element within that topic, don't let any of this, tie you into stone, or don't let it be written into stone. You got to be able to be flexible depending on the source work you get, because no matter how interesting the topic may be, if you don't find source work on it, it's going to doom your research project. All right, so you need to be able to know that there is source work out there, at least on some aspects of the topic. So, you know what? I can even think of a way to narrow this even more. Laughter, apology, the Hollywood celebrity, and the notorious late night show, like Letterman, Conan O'Brien, Leno, that sort of thing. Okay, so now I went from a very broad topic to specifically more controlled and narrowed ones. Now this, I think, I would really like to pursue. Now the thing is, if I were to try to keyword this and go laughter and apology and Hollywood celebrity and late night TV show, I don't know what I would find. If any, this might be that might not be the right way to search this thing. I might have to learn a lot about laughter in general. I might have to learn about the psychology and the art of apologizing in general. I might have to learn a lot about the Hollywood celebrity, famous apologies by Hollywood celebrities, famous failures in the celebrities, that sort of thing. And I might need to read about the history of the late night TV show. So for a while, I might be reading on actually 4 different paths. Now some of these might end up overlapping, but I'll do that overlapping in my work, in my own writing. So I'm not too concerned that I don't find a source that deals with all four of these. In fact, if I do, I would begin to get concerned that someone took my idea. You do have to always maintain that original idea. So but I do know that this is a narrowed focus, and I could think about this and work on this, okay? And but these are topics, okay? And now I want you to realize that if I were to tell you, okay, ready? Laughter, apology, and the Hollywood celebrity, true or false? You wouldn't know how to answer, because this is still just a topic. It doesn't say anything about this. It has no what's called predication. All right, now let me show you a different something here. Now let's say if I give you this statement. Perhaps we need a famous public space for our celebrities to go to in order to apologize to us so that we can sense that they are sorry. After all, they go through the humiliating ritual, but still idolize them. So what I'm saying here is if we have a famous public space out there, like the late night show, then we have that's hard to get into. Like how many of you have been on the late night show? I mean, like one of the guests. So it's hard to get to. It's still packed full of celebrities. The very fact that you're there means you're a celebrity. You're above the, you're literally, you know, above on that platform, above the audience. But figuratively, you're above the people watching you. You know, at least for that time, you've managed to be invited as a guest, and they haven't been. So there's a distinction there. So you still have that, and I guarantee you, people put it on their resumes as being a guest on Leno or whatever. So maybe we need this famous public space because, you know, when our celebrities apologize to us, they put themselves down to our level and they admit their fault to us. But what if we need celebrities? What if we need to look up to people? We might not like that because all of a sudden we're losing our idols. So what if we were to say, okay, you can do this to us, but over here at this elevated space. So, you know, conceptually, you're coming down to our level and you're apologizing to us. But in terms of social capital, you're still way above us because you're on this show. Maybe we need that to still idolize them in the sense that we love our celebrities. I'm talking about, you know, basically the average American. There's always going to be exceptions, but you work with me here, okay? Average American culture seems to be obsessed with celebrities. So now, if I were to say this to you, could you at that point be able to say, oh, wait a minute, you know, I'm not too sure about that. Let me think about it. Would you be able to say, well, false or true, or, well, I don't know, but I think it might be true? Okay, see, the very fact that you can start talking in terms of whether or not it's true or false or kind of false or getting there means that I framed it as a statement or as a claim. Now that's a thesis. A thesis always has to be a claim. Up here, these are not claims. These are still just topics, just sort of nouns, if you will. This is a sentence. So that's kind of more simplistic than I want to really let it stay at. But, you know, topics are going to be just nouns. The thesis is going to have to be a sentence. Now that's a crucial distinction between topic and thesis, and what I want you to remember from this little screen capture is that the topic needs to go at the beginning from general so that you can read a lot about it to something very narrow and controlled, and then eventually to a sentence that will help you guide your research further. Okay, now I want to end by making the point that as you begin to read and think about your topic, you need to be thinking about a claim like this that you can try to support with the data you're getting. But, you know, because you still have more reading ahead of you and more thinking, you got to make sure that it stays tentative or hypothetical. It might change. You might become convinced otherwise. But it's good to have a basic idea forming in your head, just as long as you don't put it into stone before you're finished reading and thinking. You need to let the data still continue to influence it until you reach the point of data saturation, where you sort of sense, I've done all the research I can for this at this point. I'm going to have to just make this my thesis. And at that point, it takes on a final form and a more crystallized form. But as it begins to develop in your mind, you need to keep it tentative. But it's much better to have a tentative thesis develop than not to have any at all. Okay, you need to let that idea develop.